So listen, culture, conversations, content, context, the club, every C word you can think of. There are so many ways to build narrative bridges for these audiences. But today, I kind of want to start at the beginning. And I want to, talk about this message you want to convey. And how do you start that? Like, where does it begin when you're really thinking about how you're going to get these messages out? Is it the audience? Is it the idea? There's so many different places to start. And both of you are so fantastic. It's fantastic. Both of you are here because I think both of you have a wonderful and unique viewpoint and an answer to that question. But before we kick into it, I would love for each of you to just say a little bit about yourselves, give us a little background. And as we dive into this, can you give me one thing that gets you up in the morning, something that gives you purpose? Kick it off, babe.
Thanks for passing it on to me. Keisha's like, yeah, thank God, I've got a minute to think about it. I get it. So I think my name is Leila Fataar. I'm born and raised in the global south in South Africa. I came to London when I was 21 and didn't know anyone or anything. But I've always understood what resonates in the world. My mum said, you should have been in the stock market when you were really young because you can identify what will resonate. So I think I've just tried to package that up into some kind of career. I'm 30 years into my career now with no formal education in what I do. And as I was saying to Keisha earlier, writing a book that's coming out next year, that's just from the trenches of working in the industry, building the career, etc. So that's a bit of me. I've also worked brand side at Adidas and Diageo, was headhunted for both those roles. Coming out of my 10-year company, my first one, called Spin, where we did stuff that we were just trying new stuff, how to get this product to that audience in whatever way they wanted to receive that product or brand or information. So we learned, that's my learning and training ground, 10 years of trying to do the thing.
Yep.
And then was headhunted. And I think the thing that wakes me up and gets me up, which now after 30 years and 50 years old can now articulate, is around access for people who are like me. And that's really, really important for me. So I think I've always done that. I just didn't really think about it in that way. But I was just thinking if big brands like Adidas and Diageo had to headhunt me, but I probably wouldn't have got the job if I'd applied on the website because I don't have the contacts, I don't have the training, I don't have the college, I don't have the name maybe. Maybe something's different now, hopefully, but so I was like this, and we know the amount of talent out there that maybe have never had the opportunity or access. So that is always going to be my motivator in everything I do. So I created Platform 13 7 years ago because I realized actually there was an opportunity for some kind of company that can work with big brands, but I curate my teams according to the category, culture, and community and the project. So in that way, everyone gets to eat, and that's really important for me.
And that's that mutual benefit. Definitely. You gotta love that. That's the way to go. Hit it, girl.
Gosh. So first of all, Leila is very hard to follow. She is amazing. We've been chatting the entire ride over.
But that's because I'm old and I've got a long story to tell, right? Blimey, gosh.
I don't know that she's that much older. But that, yep.
I got everybody beat on the panel.
We're not going to go there.
I got everybody beat.
I am excited to be here. I started out on the ad agency side. So I started out at BBDO in Atlanta. So I'm born and raised in the South, not South Africa, the South of the U.S. And
Atlanta.
So, yes. And I currently reside in Hotlanta or the A, whichever you decide to use. But growing up in the South in a very small rural town, that shaped so much of who I am and how I show up in the world. And so that's been something that's deeply meaningful to me. And one of the things that I've always been really good at is connecting the dots. And so now my friends are like, you're just the professional dot connector. Like, that's what you do, but we need people to do that. We need the dot connections to help tell the stories and to weave narrative. And so I started to really hone that skill on the agency side at BBDO, and then went to the client side on the brand side and worked in children's healthcare for a very short stint. I thought, oh, nonprofit, that's who I am. I have a bleeding heart. And then I realized I'm a better volunteer. I actually need to be coming out of agency world. I needed a faster pace than the nonprofit world. And so I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity with what is now Warner Brothers Discovery. And so I worked there for a decade, the first 8 years at CNN in brand marketing, and the last 2 on the entertainment side of the house, TBS and TNT. Did a brief stint in a startup because fascinated, just wanted to understand. And it was at the intersection of news and media and technologies. And I thought, well, this is okay. Here we are.
Yes.
Went under after the pandemic, as some startups do. And that opportunity, though, opened the door to where I am now at the EW Scripps company. And I have the absolute honor of leading the marketing team there for the enterprise. And really, I think the thing that gets me up is not so dissimilar to
Sounds
yours.
really, really similar. Dot connection, resonance. These things are connected.
Though. Yeah. That part, because somebody's got to blaze that trail so that others like us can follow behind. And I think having women and people of color on my team and having them see someone in this level of leadership is really important to me, because I want them to know that they can and should be gunning for my job.
Y'all are hot. Hot on a Thursday morning. I mean, I'm here taking some notes. Y'all spitting rhymes. It's like we back at Club Quarantine. Right. Y'all spitting the rhymes, man. So look, and you talked about the book, and I stole some of the language because I'm so excited about where it's going. I've already pre-ordered it. I'm so excited. And so a little of this language you're going to recognize in this question that I'm going to start with you. And so I'm going to read a little of it is why I want to say that. So if culture is everything and everything is culture, then I think the first question I have is, does all good storytelling start by letting personal culture shape the story? And now we're weaving in our words here. Miss Leila, if we know that culture-led brands drive growth, build resilience, and cultivate resonance, why aren't more folks doing it? I mean, if that's the answer, why aren't we just stepping into that solution? Or at least doing it right? Do we need to amp up our encouragement of leaders to rethink not just their external messaging, but their internal values for a more culture-led branding and business strategy? Ooh, you got nuggets. That is adaptive, boom. Authentic, boom. Accountable. Girl, yeah, you got all the hashtags in this book. How important is that setting characters and plot shaped by your own cultural background, babe? So in your own words, give it to us.
Thanks for that.
I loved it. I loved it.
I think for me, it's always been about true storytelling. And you can't really get true storytelling without having experienced the thing that you're storytelling about. And, the more I've worked in this area, the more I've always talked about the 3 areas that really impact people's behaviors, consumers' behaviors and mindsets. And that is politics, and that is technological adoption, and that is the media narrative. We know those 3 things really impact how you see brands, what you think about, and how that is. So I think there's a lot to be done about mindsets and behaviors and what influences, encourages them, because culture is the stuff of life. It's what we eat, it's what we see, it's what permeates everything, but it's influenced by something as well. And there's 2 areas that are stacked on each other that I don't think people think about enough. And I've always thought this, and actually the body of work that I've done has always had this at the root. Brands are seen through the eyes of your inherited and identity culture, as well as your interest cultures or your fan cultures. That's right. Mm-hmm. It's a stack. It's not an intersection. So the lenses you look through have that at the heart of it. If you're queer, a brand that doesn't have those values, or that it doesn't have to be loud and proud, but it can be inclusive, right? That's going to speak to you a lot more than that last click attrition performance ad that you're going to see. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the way I see it, at least for culture-led brands. Doesn't mean it's for everyone, but for the ones who are banging on about it and want to be culture relevant, do it the right way. That's all I'm saying.
And I mean, if you don't, then what are you trying to do?
What are you doing?
What are you trying to do if you're not trying to be culture-led? I think that's a great question. We'll dive back into that one.
And one more just addition on that, Marissa, is that I think it's around certain brands in the world transcend their category, right? That's a culture-led brand. A category, you're in competition with the other people in your category. Once you can find the thing that only your brand can do that's culturally relevant, you transcend that and you become a different kind of leader. A different leader where you don't have to compete. You're not looking I call this in the book competition FOMO. Like, you don't need that. You're the one that's pushing the thing forward.
You are blazing the trail.
Pushing the thing forward.
Yep.
So if you want to be a leader, you need to be a cultural leader, not just a category leader.
Girl.
Didn't
So
you
let's
just
see,
stop
you better be backing me up when people are coming for me next year in the book. LinkedIn.
No, when we host those book signings in Atlanta and LA, girl,
I know.
Okay.
You
We'll be waiting for
I'm
you.
joking.
We will be waiting for you.
Are, no, that's a promise. So now look. So we found this story, right? As we go through this journey of how do we get this, we've got our voice. And one that's got this organic lens and mindset. You're creating these connections, but sometimes the story is not a simple once upon a time. Sometimes it's these multiple arcs from one core idea, and that's not easy.
No.
And you, probably more than anyone here, know what that is like, Keisha, because you build story narratives for multiple networks every single day. And you have to ensure you're maintaining this cultural integrity for your stories where they travel across cultures and those brands and then meet back up.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you do nothing. Like, you just wake up and float through the day. You got nothing to do.
Drink a little coffee.
So knowing where we started and where this voice is coming from, how are you maintaining this integrity as you're walking through the story, right?
So
now we're there.
It is a tightrope because with Scripps, we are in news, entertainment, and now sports. So these are three very different, but in some ways similar categories. And the one thing I think about often, and this was advice that I got from a mentor very long ago, and she told me, she said, be careful who you let tell your story. Be very careful who you let tell your story. And that is how I think about our work. And so when we are building narratives, it is so critically important to me that we have workers and staff members and team members who are as diverse as our viewing audience. If we do not have that diversity, what are we doing? Because we can't and I hate the word, listen, the words authenticity
please,
and the words culture
yes,
get on my nerves at this point. They've been so overused, oversaturated, but I think there is a place for them in this conversation. We do have to make sure that we have people who have the lived experience.
Always.
Who can speak to and build narratives for audiences who are showing up for us. And the only reason they will show up for us is if we are telling our own truth and sharing our stories that are shared experiences. And that is so important. Right now, Sherry, who leads brand on our team, we were just talking this morning about the fact that we have women's sports. And that is amazing. We are so happy to have it. We also have a lot of men who are working on it. And so bless you. We have a lot of men who are working on it, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. But what I'm learning is that we have to teach. There's a lot of teaching that has to happen because there are a lot of preconceived notions based on how men's sports have been covered and how we talk about those things. And we have to do some course correction. But thankfully, we have strong women who are leading the charge who can make sure that the narrative, and just strong women who've also played sports. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
It's a yes.
That's
it is a
important.
thing. It's an absolute thing.
It is
who understands the world.
They understand the world and can build that universe of story.
If you and this is what I keep on saying about any culture-led projects, branding, whatever it might be for a brand. You need to have the people with the insights at ideation phase.
Yes.
They are there and they will give you those cultural nuggets of gold that you just cannot get if you have never had the lived experience of something. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
You can't search it up. You can't research it. It's those little things that hold the culture together.
That's right.
Hold the community together. That's where it comes from. So even with Platform 13 and how I've worked my entire career, every single team is made up of someone or part of the community that's not only the target audience,
that's being represented. That's right.
It has to be. So we're talking about this before. What people don't understand about culture-led work, it's the input that's more important because the output is a response to the input.
It's a natural progression.
It's a natural progression.
It's a natural progression. It has to happen.
It falls out of it. It just falls out of it.
That's what it is.
Exactly. So we hear Cam, we're talking about creativity. You cannot have creativity without it being culturally led.
That's right.
It falls out. And that's the truth of the matter.
I love what you're talking about. And I will say, just from my own perspective, I called my agency Native Tongue Communications, and people said, oh, is it because Tribe Called Quest? Or, and there's
maybe it was.
And maybe
Of course.
there's a lot of reasons and thought behind it. But one is truly, and I pride myself at any given time, there is someone who I'm working with fluent in French, Haitian, Spanish, Korean,
Yes.
Vietnamese, Tagalog. We can literally speak
Language.
in a native tongue. And that is the groundwork and the beginning of understanding the insights and the emotional connectivity.
Definitely.
And truly culturally, who not just literally who we're speaking to,
Right.
but mentally and emotionally who we're connecting with.
And
I just think people miss that.
They do, and that's what I was talking about, the stacks. So the stacks of, as I said, inherited identity culture is things like this. But there's also the language of sports. There's the language of entertainment. And there's a language within those. There are different genres and different languages within those as well. And it's all of those things together. And it's hard to do. It's not easy. People think it's easy. You've got to be so respectful, and there needs to be mutual appreciation and benefit.
That's right.
Everyone. That's really important.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's getting it. So, and I love all of this. All right, now I want to blow it all up. I said I love it all. Now I want to blow it up. I want to give an example because I want to poke at it just a little bit. I tell people, I identify as a Black woman, a woman of color, but I have won awards for campaigns that are for monster trucks, like Ram trucks, that are targeted in C&D County, primarily
where I grew up,
non-Hispanic white male audience, 25 to 54, 49 to 60.
I got you with this. I got you with this question.
I've won award. We came up with won awards for it. Now, that's not my lived experience. What I think, and we. Girl.
Are you sure those monster trucks?
Girl.
Just checking.
But now what I think, and I poke around at this sometime, is I think people of color, because we are generally, and not generally, really always, 90% of the time, forced to live in an environment and a place where we are the chip in that cookie.
Yeah.
It's just us.
We get pulled on those projects,
We have to figure out how, and not just work, but life, standing in a grocery store or,
That's right.
Shopping. You go shopping and someone's following you around because who are you and do you belong here? And it's that feeling as we go through life still in 2024 that we have to fit in where we go.
Yes,
right? We have to fit in. So knowing we've got that when it's our voice, it's our culture, and we're making sure that's resonating through the communities. Talk about how you get into, one, the mindset of speaking to a community you are not from, right? And how do you build these culturally rich stories in a way that creates that bridge? How do you know you're connecting? And how do you know you're creating these bridges that are going to, bring them in?
Do you want to go ahead?
I think the best marketers are anthropologists. We just study people. You have to study people, and I think behaviors, and I think you have to be a good listener. I really do. I think you have to listen very well, and you have to walk very humbly into that area to make sure that you are listening and understanding to the degree that you can actually build a narrative. Now, I think the difference is we've been, all of our lives, we've been surrounded by cultures that are very different than our own upbringing, like backgrounds, people that are very different from us. And we've always often been the other. And so you get a very clear understanding of otherness and what the standard is. And so, yes, do I have to?
Otherness.
Yeah, but I think living that life, but also being an active listener. When I think about our news product now, it's really speaking to conservative 50-year-old white men. I'm none of those things. And so I need to make sure that I understand that vantage point. But I think you also draw from your experiences. Rural South, I know what that looks like. I have neighbors like that. And so I think it's just making sure that you are constant students of the people and the world around you. And if you do that in a way with humility, which is what I wish so many people would do when it comes to reaching out to other cultures, making sure you have a really deep and clear understanding of it before you just start talking about it. Like you need to be thoughtful. We just recently for sports, we were asked by one of the leagues to change out our graphics so that we could celebrate Pride Month with them. And so that was fine. That was a decision that we had to make. But I said, listen, we need to be thoughtful about the decisions that we are making here. We should only be doing this if we have a very strong DE&I practice within our organization and it aligns with the calendar of things that Scripps already subscribes to and things that we already support, because we had someone else from a team ask us to support domestic violence. It's not that we don't do not domestic, we not support it, but you understand, support the survivors.
We got
of domestic violence. Now we don't. Yeah, but we certainly support the survivors, but that we don't wave a flag about that. That's not something we are deeply involved in. And I'm like, no, because we're not going to start waving the flag there when that's not something that is part of the fabric of who we are as a brand. And you need to be able to say yes and no in those instances, and not even just yes and no. Why? Why?
Why is a good question.
Why?
I think I like this question because it is something that I've always talked about. You know, I have a body of work as a marketer, not necessarily a woman of color marketer. So that's for me, I'm like, judge me by my work. But what I do is maybe approach it with in a different way. So for me, what's really important, as I said, if I'm not queer, but if I'm doing something for Pride, like we did for Pinterest, my team is. You understand? So it's not even me trying to come up with the ideas. My team is curated that way. If I'm working for Jaguar Land Rover, my team is going to be from the automotive and luxury traveling space, whatever, you know? So that's the way I've always done it, is I bring the people in who are the experts in that area, and I learn from them, and I check everything with them. I check everything with them because that's not my lived experience. That doesn't mean that I only want to be on the projects that's my lived experience, because my body of work tells a different story.
That's right.
It tells a different story. So it is sometimes important to go, I don't want to, I'm here as a woman of color because that's my inherited my inherited nature, and I love it, of course. But my work as a marketer is much broader, and I don't want to be pigeonholed in that way, and I don't need to be but the way I do it is making sure that there's no assumptions in anything. That's a big issue, I feel. The assumptions, we think it's like that because we read that somewhere. No. Get the people in who's from there and take the information from them and get them in. That's the way I would approach it.
That's that cultural context.
That's the cultural
which circles it back, right?
Exactly.
This is always how. So, and I'm hearing, because I know we're running tight, but I'm hearing, it's about osmosis.
Always.
Yeah. Osmosis, a big word that I'm taking away from this.
Word.
And empathy.
Always.
Yes.
Osmosis and empathy. And when you take these and you stir them up in that pot, I feel like that's when we're getting
beautiful
that gold that both of you deliver time and time again. I know we've got to go, but before we go, I want to give each of you just a quick minute. Will you crow about something? Because y'all got lots to crow about. But I want you each to crow about something special that's going on. Tell us something really cool going on in your world right now.
We are really focused on women's sports. That's a big game changer for us. Our organization has never had a sports division, and we just stood one up, and we've decided to make our investments in women's sports. And so it's the WNBA, the NWSL, and it was before it caught on fire for the rest of the world when most of us were already watching, but everybody else now has finally caught up. But we're so excited to have been an early mover in that space, and we are just thrilled with the growth that we're seeing from it. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're
y'all
up to.
know the talk of the town. That just looks like
We're very
brilliant.
thankful.
Because you are brilliant. But boy, oh boy, that was just timing is everything.
Timing was everything. We could not have been more fortunate, but we're excited about that.
And you still would have knocked it out of the park. But this is just incredible.
This is the added benefit
This is
of
the added
yeah.
benefit.
This is the added benefit.
What you got, girl?
It's the book. It has to be. And to be honest, it's
quoting it already.
no, but it's super exciting. It's it's where I come from. That's just not one of the things that you do. And even now, I'm like, I'm not a writer. Actually, I'm a practitioner. Like, I'm not actually a writer. So it's a hard thing to do. Props to the authors and writers out there. It is difficult. There's a lot of content because it's 30 years of content. So I'm really happy. Actually, the timing is perfect. Every single talk at this entire conference has been affirmations about the stuff that we've been talking about for years. Even though it feels like new news for the industry, it's not. We've been doing it. So I'm really happy to be able to hopefully bring it all together into one space. So 2025 people.
That's right.
Just come and back me up when they come for me.
At a retailer near you.
We're going to
That's
have
all I'm saying.
parties at Cannes, parties in LA, parties in
Atlanta.
I mean, you're doing the U.S. book tour, so come on, girl.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I'm really excited about that. And my mum is over the moon, obviously. She's like, she's an author. I'm like, let's get the book out first.
But and I could not be. Thank you both so much. This is incredible.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.